Artificial intelligence is popping up pretty much everywhere, and healthcare is definitely no exception. And the promise is huge, right? We're talking about AI tools designed to help out our overworked doctors and social workers. So let's get into it. Just imagine this for a second. A social worker is facing a mountain of case files. An AI can scan hundreds of pages of really complex medical history, and boom, in just a few seconds, it produces a perfect little summary. I mean, that sounds like an absolute game changer for a system that's stretched to its breaking point, right? It seems like a clear win. But what if the story that AI tells isn't actually the truth? Well, a group of researchers at the London School of Economics decided to put this to the test. And what they found was, well, it was pretty shocking. It points to a really deep flaw that could have some serious real-world consequences for patients. Okay, get this. The researchers fed an AI the exact same patient notes twice. The only thing they changed was a single word, the patient's gender. When the patient was Mr. Smith, the AI summarized him as a vulnerable man, complex medical needs, poor mobility, basically unable to function. But then, when they simply changed the gender to Mrs. Smith, using the exact same case file, the AI told a completely different story. Suddenly, she's independent. She's able to maintain her personal care. She can manage. Same facts, two totally different realities. So that brings up the big question, right? How is that even possible? This isn't just some random computer glitch. It's a symptom of a much, much deeper problem that's literally woven into the fabric of the data these AI systems are learning from. To really wrap our heads around what's going on here, we have to zoom out a bit. We need to look at the different ways bias can creep in and poison an AI system, turning what should be a helpful tool into a source of real inequality. And it really boils down to three main culprits. You've got bias that comes from the algorithm's design itself and bias from the humans using the tool. But honestly, both of those are often just symptoms of the first and biggest problem, the data itself. Think of it this way. An AI is basically a pattern matching machine. It's like a student that learns from all the textbooks we give it. But what happens if those textbooks are skewed? If the data doesn't actually reflect the real world in all its diversity, the AI is just going to learn our existing biases and then amplify them. And here's the thing, for decades, our research has been laser-focused on a very specific type of person. Researchers actually have a name for it, the WEIRD profile. That stands for Western, Educated, Industrialized, Rich, and Democratic. So the historical data we're feeding these AIs is already reflecting old societal biases. And that is exactly how an AI learns that an elderly man living alone needs help, while a woman in the very same situation is just, managing. If you want to put a number on it, how about this one? A staggering 81%. That's the percentage of large-scale genetic studies, the very data that's used to predict our risk for diseases, that have been conducted on people of European ancestry. This isn't some small statistical hiccup. It's a massive, gaping hole in our data. And this is precisely why this all matters so much. This isn't abstract. This data gap has literal life or death consequences. For example, skin cancer diagnostic apps, which were trained mostly on images of white skin, are about half as accurate for Black patients. Or take pulse oximeters, those little clips they put on your finger. They are 3 times more likely to completely miss dangerously low oxygen levels in Black patients. The bias in the data causes real physical harm. So you might be thinking, okay, we just need to fix the data, fix the code. But the problem doesn't stop there. Because even if we could build a perfectly unbiased AI, it wouldn't matter one bit if people can't actually use it. And that brings us to the next layer of this problem, the digital divide. We're moving into a whole new era, an era where your health isn't just shaped by your diet or your genes, but by something called digital determinants of health. This is everything from having a stable internet connection to knowing how to use a smartphone app. These things are quickly becoming just as critical to our well-being as anything else. And to really get what the goal should be, it's super helpful to break down the difference between these three ideas. So, equality is giving everyone the exact same tool, like the same smartphone app. Equity is a step better. It's recognizing that, say, a visually impaired person might need a device with a bigger screen to use that app fairly. But justice? Justice goes way deeper. Justice asks why some communities don't have good internet to begin with, and then works to fix those big structural problems. It's about redesigning the entire system so it's inclusive from the very start. So you'd hope policymakers are all over this, right? Well, a recent review by the University of Warwick looked at 20 national digital health strategies from all around the world. And the results were, bleak. 100% of them, not half, not most of them, but every single one, completely failed to even consider the digital gender divide. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. We know that AI is learning from biased data, and we know that access to these new tools is wildly unequal. So what's the cure? How do we actually start moving toward a future of true digital justice in healthcare? Look, there's no single magic bullet here. We have to attack this from a few different angles at once. First, we have to fix that data gap. That means intentionally going out and collecting data from the communities that have been ignored. Second, we have to stop designing these tools for people and start designing them with people, the ones who will actually be using them. Third, that has to be paired with a huge investment in digital literacy for everybody. And finally, all of this has to be built on a solid foundation of ethics that makes fairness a core feature, not an afterthought. And let's just double down on that literacy point for a second, because it is so incredibly important. It's a huge driver of inclusion. But then you see a statistic like this. In the EU, only about a quarter of people between 65 and 74 have even basic digital skills. How can we possibly build a digital-first health system if a huge chunk of our population can't even use the tools? What's great, though, is that the solutions don't all have to be super high-tech. They can be incredibly human. For instance, the idea of digital facilitators, basically real people who are there to help patients navigate all these new digital services. And maybe most important of all, we have to make sure that telehealth is an option, not a replacement. The physical door to the doctor's office has to stay open for anyone who needs it or prefers it. So at the end of the day, it really all comes down to this one question. If data is the new medicine and AI is how we're prescribing it, how do we make absolutely sure we aren't creating a cure that only works for one type of patient while leaving so many others behind? That's the challenge.